Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ulfa Diana Rizka Kamilia. My ID number is T 2019-6187. Here I would like to present about the journal that I have been sent to Miss Umi, with the title is Teaching Speaking Skill in English Language Using Classroom Activities in Secondary School Level in Eldoret Municipality, Kenya. Okay, let me explain you about the introduction of the journal. In Kenya, English is taught as a second language. It has been given a high status as native language by the government due to its status as a national and international language. It is used in all government communication subject in educational system. Hence, it is taught from standard 1 to university and a language for instruction from standard to university. However, globally, there is a debate that majority of high school graduates cannot speak English. Even the bright student who gets a high score in written examination are able in expressing themselves orally in English language. In Kenya, students lack communicative and linguistic competence are often to give a code switch like English languages during the conversation or in group discussion in the class. Okay, now let us move to the discussion. For the first point is variation on use of classroom activities. For the second is motivation. And the third is teacher's role, and the last is learner's role. For the first is variation on use of classroom activities. In this observation between students and teachers on variation of use of the classroom activities was not really similar. However, it shown a general agreement that some activities such as discussion were used more than oral drills. Although the questionnaires teachers indicate that they use the learner-centered classroom activities, observed lessons by the researchers revealed that a major of them adopted lecturer method, examination, question and answer, which are mainly teacher-centered teaching method. It was also observed during class observation that student participation was low. Most learners were passive. A study is done by Oman in Al-Hassin 2014 also indicate that learners were passive in English when they were given a chance to discuss. They use Arabic in their study group due to the vocabulary, weak sentence build skill, grammar structure, fear of making mistake in front of their classmates. Thus, it kept them to the Saudi Arabia that curriculum is wide. This has led to the teachers using teacher-centered methodology like repetition drills, memorization, and lecture method. Boring and stressful classroom environments do not encourage students to be creative and analytical, and tasks that only require students to listen and demonstrate them. Students have no responsibilities in the classroom, and when they are negative learners, even if they have the opportunity to participate, but they will not take it, but they are afraid to make a mistake. And also, although the classroom activities for STEM like discussion, role play, speeches, dramatization, encourage learners to practice using language in the conversation itself. Learners' culture factor make them passive. Thus, is needed to make some effort by both teachers and students to aid the learner-centered strategies. In addition, the learner-centered classroom activities are a cure side. Learners who try to speak in front of the class have to face-to-face work independently, minimally involvement of the teacher, and also and improve their speaking skills through the practice in their daily activities. Culture factors have been found in hamper activities implementation of communication language teaching methodologies. Can be called as CLT. The classroom activities which are interested in this study are based on CLT principles. A study done in Thailand by Martin Tham on 2014 found that teachers were unable to implement CLT methodologies due to the culture factor that make the learners are passive. Furthermore, problem on frequency of use on the classroom activities was not most. The teachers tend to use less of the some of strategies in the classroom activities, especially in oral drills and language games. Language scholars observe that oral drills help students to improve by practicing and consequently perfect their skill in speaking. For the second point is motivation. As we know that motivation is very needed by all people to motivate there's something to be done. Like when we want to study or we want to do something, we have to get some motivation in order we will be spirited to do that. Motivation is an important factor which determines the rate at which learners undertake the activities. According to Littlewood 1984, he said that motivation is the crucial force which determines whether a learner embarks in a task at all, how much energy they devote to do it, and how much long they persevere. This is an indication that the communicative skills are developed when the learner is motivated and when they are provided with opportunity to practice using language in that context. Al-Hosni on 2014 observes that some learners lack motivation to speak English because they do not see the need to learn or speak English. It means that teachers should endeavor to explain to their learners to how important of learning English language in order to develop internal motivation. And for the third point is teacher role. Teachers should facilitate the learner process. Okay, for the third point is teacher's role. Teachers should facilitate the learning process by providing learners with knowledge. Al-Harbi 2015 said, this requires that teachers use teacher-centered methodology, but just be thankful to be aware of the culture of the community in order to take care of the learner culture. Identification of this culture aspect provide warm learning, friendlier and good relationship between the student and the teacher by reducing the culture distance. In the speaking class, teachers are required to create some communicative and interactive activities by giving the student a great ideal of opportunity to practice the target language. Okay, for the last point is learner's role. Learners also play an important role in the speaking skill lesson. First, students should be ready to interact with the curriculum being provided by the teacher. This requires learners who have international motivation, and this increases them confidence and willingness to communicate each other. The learners then develop long-term self-motivation and determination which will enable them to put more effort by participating actively in classroom activities by speaking in English outside of the classroom. Talai and Huiling on 2014 purpose for strategies in classroom communication interaction. A learner should think of what they are going to say, think about the structures they are using but do not let them to interfere with what they want to say. Don't be afraid to make some mistake. Just study. Mistakes are normally as you are learning a language. You can consider that from mistake we can increase our ability to be better than before. And when you are not understand about the material, you have to ask clearly to the teacher and use repetition, like repetition about the material and synonyms, definitions, acting out whatever comes naturally as you begin to feeling more proficient in the language. Okay, now let us move to the result of the journal itself. For the first is teachers' responses. There are 14 teachers. It can be count 100% indicated that they are using a different classroom activities depending on the situation itself. The most preferred classroom activities among their teachers was discussion. It is about 92.9% of teachers. Dramatization for about 85.7%, song for about 78.6%, impromptu speeches and tongue twisters for about 71.4%. Moderatory preferred activities include like short story and role play for about 64.3%, debating and reading poem for about 57.1%, and the last is for oral drills for about 42.9%. The study also established the teachers use many recommended integrated classroom activities including dramatization, discussion, debating, dialogue, role play, input speeches, tongue twister, oral drills, and reciting poem or reading poem. But to various degree, the study found out the teacher preferred some combination teaching, like they will compare one another to another combination. The most preferred combination by teachers consists of dramatization, discussion, debating, and dialogue, which 50% of teachers use in the classroom activities, followed by dramatization, discussion, and role play for about 14.3%. The rest of the activity combination were less preferred but not less used by at least one teacher. Okay, for the second point is student responses. According to the student responses, the most widely used classroom activities include discussion, which was confirmed by 88.9% of students, storytelling 82.7%, and poem and reading poem for about 82.9%. Other activities that are moderately used include dramatization, compared by 69.4% of students. Debating is 97.1%, songs is 5.6.7%, tongue twister is 58.3%, and role play is 53.6%. According to response, that input speeches is for about 37.3% and oral drill for about 35.3% are rarely used. Okay, for the last result is observed lessons. One major observation was that classroom activities were carried by teachers in varying degrees. Discussion was more popular than oral drills in all school categories. In general, teachers in the national school were able to integrate several classroom activities within a lesson. For instance, dialogue, discussion, impromptu speeches, and role play as opposed to provincial and district school. Provincial school teachers use question and answer session, hold the class discussion and group in discussion. In general school, teachers try to integrate at least 2 classroom activities within a single lesson to achieve integration of the 4 skills. Those are listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Okay, to make easier to understand about the Juna that I have been explained above, I will give you a conclusion from the Juna itself. For the first is all the classroom activities include discussion, dialogue, drama, oral narratives, song, tongue twisters, debate, reading poems, storytelling, and role play were used during the lesson, but they have a different frequency. Second is code switching to use keys whistling or sang by the student was a problem in certain classroom discussion which could hamper the learning of the target language. And for the last is teachers prefer teaching classroom activities singly, not interactively. Maybe that's all from me. If I have made a wrong mistake, I really beg your pardon. And last I say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.